بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I pray everyone is doing well and enjoying, inshallah, the lockdown. And this is what we should be doing, inshallah. It's an opportunity for us to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to benefit from our time. So, inshallah, we need to look at it in a positive way, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, this in a webinar about the topic of purification of the soul is one of the topics we really should be focusing on as we have this time to isolate and to be able to benefit from this time, inshallah ta'ala, in purifying our souls and coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about some different principles or qawa'id that can help us, inshallah ta'ala, purify our soul. I talked the other day, I put it on my YouTube channel, I talk about the search for spirituality and everyone around the world, how they're searching for spirituality. And you can go back and look at that, inshallah. We have a limited amount of time, so I want to focus more on the principles that are going to help us in being able to achieve spirituality, inshallah ta'ala. When you look into the issue of the search and everyone's need, just briefly, when you look into the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the issue of the nafs, of the soul. And there's going to be one of two outcomes when it comes to this soul. If you go to verses, and this is any verse all of us memorize, from Surah Al-Shams. I think almost all of the Muslims memorize the surah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the nafs, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and the soul and he who proportioned it. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, and then Allah inspired it. He put inside every nafs, every human being inside, we have that which is good, we know that which is good, and we know that which is evil. It's a natural inclination that every human being has. Now, with that natural inclination, you're either going to be one of two people, one of two categories. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. You're either going to be from those, the first one, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, those who are successful, those who succeed. Why do they succeed? Because they strive to purify their soul. They take out the time, the effort, like we're doing here today, alhamdulillah. Take out the time to sit down and to learn different principles and how to do it, inshallah. And after we learn, then it's about implementation, putting the actions, because just learning without putting into action, it doesn't do any good. So the true benefit is the one who is going to be successful, is the one who strives to see how to purify that soul and implements it in his life. And the second category, وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا, that the one who then he does not strive to purify it, that he is going to what? He's going to fill it, and with that is what's going to corrupt it. He's going to corrupt his soul. And this is the reality of most people, that they choose the latter choice, which is to corrupt their soul. And very interesting, if you look into the verses in Surah Al-A'la, also which most of us memorize and know, and we hear all the time in our salat, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, that the one who purifies it, that he's going to be successful. Certainly, succeeded are the one who purifies his soul. And then Allah tells us some of the means on how we can purify the soul in these verses. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى, and he remembers the name of his Lord. He makes the dhikr of Allah and he prays. The dhikr of Allah and the salah. These are two of the main ways, the main means for us to be able to purify our souls. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the reality of most people, even though this is the way to success, but most people, بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, that most people, they prefer the life of this world, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى, while the hereafter is better and everlasting. So the person who doesn't strive to purify his soul in this life, this is his reality. His reality is that he is someone who has taken the pleasures of this life and put them and give them more importance than the pleasures of the hereafter. Also, something very critical when it comes to this topic we're talking about today, because we're all talking about the pandemic that we're living with, the coronavirus, but an even greater pandemic, which has been widespread for many years, and the times that we live in, is the issue of the soul and the purification of the soul, and people corrupting their souls and not striving. People now, the emotional sicknesses, and coronavirus, how many people was it killed? But how many people have died who are emotionally unstable, who are spiritually unstable? How many people are addicted to medications, in order to antidepressants and what have you, in order to deal with these difficulties. How many people, especially when you go to the Western world, who are addicted to alcohol and drugs, and many of them end up committing suicide. If we were to look at these numbers, they're much greater. They're much greater than the coronavirus. In fact, and the coronavirus is nothing compared to this pandemic, the reality of this pandemic. And that's why something very interesting that Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, mentioned, that the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more important to the human being than the water to the fish. What happens to the fish if you take him out of the water? And this is what happens to the human being if he doesn't have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah told us this meaning in the Quran when He said, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُمْ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Those who have believed and their hearts are assured by the remembrance of Allah. And then Allah says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. That unquestionably, no doubt, by the remembrance of Allah, the hearts are assured. But when you turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens? In the other verse in Surah Taha, Allah told us, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. That whoever turns away from my remembrance, that he will live a miserable life. He will live a difficult life. And this is the reality of so many people around the world today. And this is the true pandemic that we really need to focus on. And if you look in the talk I gave recently about the search for spirituality, you'll see many examples of how people, and even the most successful people in the world, are looking for that. Something missing inside, they realize it. And we have it, alhamdulillah, in Islam. So how can we truly benefit, and how can we be from those who are successful and purify their soul? I'm going to mention, inshallah, and if time permits, 10 different principles that will help us, inshallah ta'ala, be from those who are able and successful in purifying their soul, inshallah ta'ala. The first and the greatest reason for us to be able to purify our souls is the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani, to have pure tawheed in our life, pure la ilaha illallah, pure Islamic monotheism, to know the reason why you're here, to know the reason why you were created, and to know where you're going in the future. This, and just this feeling alone is one of the great victories in life. And why do I call it a great victory? Because so many people, when you live in the West, wallahi, they're lost and they don't know why they're here. They don't know why they've been created. But as a Muslim, it's like from the ABCs of Islam. Any Muslim, you ask him why we were created, and they'll tell you, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That Allah told us in the Quran that I've only created the jinn and the mankind to worship me. We're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're here to be tested, to see what we're going to do with this blessing, this life, because life is a blessing Allah has given us. No matter, even if we face difficulties, it's still a blessing. And life is a blessing. What are you going to do with what Allah has given you? Knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing the greatness of Allah. And how do we know Allah? Through His beautiful names and attributes. And that's, as we're in the month of the Quran, we focus on reading the Quran, not just reading it, but focusing on these meanings. And if you look at one of the smallest surahs in the Quran, it has one of the greatest meanings in describing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the greatness of Allah. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, Surah Al-Ikhlas. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that it equals a third of the Quran. It's a very powerful surah, very small but very powerful in its meaning. If you go to at the end of Surah Al-Hashr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Himself with all of His beautiful names and attributes, that's how you truly know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you fill your heart with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's going to help you to be able to act on the other things that you need to do in order to purify your soul. So the key is knowing Allah and having pure, strong tawheed in your heart. That's the key. That's the start to be able to purify your soul. Something very interesting, as I was reading for this topic, tafsir of a verse which and I honestly didn't know before. And when I read it, and I even asked some people who were around me when I was preparing, I said, what does this verse mean? And everyone understood something, which is what is apparent of the verse. And even when you look into the translations that we have, all of them say the same thing. And the verse, it comes in verse number 7, or you can say 6 and 7, end of 6 and beginning of 7 of Surah Al-Fussilat, chapter 41. When Allah says at the end of verse 6, وَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ, and woe to those who associate others with Allah. And warning the mushrikeen. Then Allah describes them, الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ, that those who do not give zakah, and they are in the hereafter disbelievers. And what is meant by zakat here? Right away, many people they think about the zakat, the money of the zakat. But Imam Ibn Kathir and others, they mentioned that what's really meant by this verse is the issue of the purification of the soul. What's meant by the verse is the purification of the soul, and not the issue of talking about the zakat of money. Even what Ibn Kathir mentioned, rahimahullah, he said, "Wal murad biz zakat huna." What's meant by the zakat here? He said it's purifying the soul from all of the different the bad behaviors. And he said that this is the most important of those is to purify it from a shirk. Once again, issue of tawheed. And then he said that the zakat of the mal, the money of the zakat of the money, he said it's called that because you're purifying it from haram. You're purifying your money from haram. And he said that what happens when you purify your money from haram, he said it enables you to receive barakah and blessings in what you have. And this will give you the tawfiq and the blessings to be able to increase in your ta'at and your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentioned, and this is what's meant in the verse. And even Ibn Taymiyyah, he talked about this in Ibn al-Qayyim. Ibn al-Qayyim said that the majority of the mufassirin, that they said that this is the meaning of this verse, and this is what's meant by this verse. And interesting, when Ibn Taymiyyah, he said that the tawheed, he said it is the asl, it's the origin of all of the things in the heart. And so once the origin is correct, and this is the meaning of the verse, that you purify that, then the rest, inshallah ta'ala, is going to be able, and it's going to fall into place. The second principle that we need, or the second thing that we're going to need after the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the book of Allah. Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, he said that Allah has guaranteed that whoever follows the Quran, that he will not go astray in this life, and he will not be unhappy in the hereafter. And then he read the verse in Surah Taha, verse 123, فَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى, that whoever follows my guidance, he will neither go astray in the world, nor will he suffer in the hereafter. And the reality is that when you look into this ayah, وَلَا يَشْقَى, and he will not suffer in the hereafter, and he will not be unhappy, and he will not, and also even in this life. And when it comes to the happiness, because the true happiness, it comes from iman. It comes from obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It comes from striving to purify our hearts. And that's why when you look into the verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the Quran to us, and he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِدَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. O you have believed, it has come to you from Allah a maw'idah. A maw'idah is a reminder. It's a reminder from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like the maw'idah we hear during Jum'ah, or someone gives a small reminder, it's a maw'idah. So here in this verse, in Surah Yunus, chapter 10, verse 57, Allah says that it has come to a maw'idah from your Lord, وَشِفَاء لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ وَهُدَى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And it's a cure, it's for what's in the hearts, and it's a source of huda, guidance, and rahmah, mercy for the believers. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he said that the Quran is a shifa tam, a complete cure for all of the diseases that are in the heart, and also when it comes to the disease of the body as well. And he said that it's the true medicine of this life and of the hereafter. This is the Quran. After pure tawheed, after the Quran, what do we need to do next to make sure that we can purify our hearts? Is to raise our hands and to open up our hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make dua to Allah. Something very interesting that Mutarraf ibn al-Shukhayr, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned, he said, I was reflecting, what is Jama' al-Khayr, and he gathers most of good, and all the actions. Because he said there's so much khair, a lot of things have so much good. He said, if you look into the fasting, the salat, all of this is khair. But he said, everything, the hidayah and everything, it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I found that there's nothing better and nothing that has, and it gathers more khair in it than the dua. And the dua has the most khair. It brings you the most khair. Because in the end, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give us the tawfiq and the ability, we're not going to be successful. If we truly want to purify ourselves, we truly want to reach that level of spirituality that we all claim that we want, we're not going to be able to do it without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why if you reflect, when the adhan is called and the muadhin is saying the adhan, we're ordered in the sunnah to repeat after him. But when it comes to hayya al-salah and hayya al-falah, what are we supposed to say? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no ability, no strength except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if Allah doesn't give us the ability, we hear the nidam, we hear the call. But if Allah doesn't help us, if Allah doesn't assist us, then we don't have the ability to get up and to then go to the salah, to perform the salah. And that's why the dua is the key. The dua is the key to open the door for us, inshallah ta'ala, and to truly open up your heart. Not just the dua that people make now, people making a dua, Ya Allah, please, may you guide me with spirituality. Well, this is the dua. And even if you don't have your phone in your hand a lot of the time, people are they're not there, they're everywhere else. The dua where you're truly focused. The dua where you truly open up your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The dua that if you're really sincere in it, then inshallah, most likely, eventually tears are going to come out of your eyes and out of the truthfulness and the sidq when you open up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet alayhi salatu was salam, he said, Laysa shay akram ala Allah ta'ala min ad-du'a. He said that there's nothing more honorable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the supplication, than the dua. The most honorable thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the dua. And Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said something very interesting. He said that I do not fear, the answer of the dua. The dua was going to be answered. He said, but my fear is, not making the dua itself. He said, but if we make the dua, he said the ijabah, the answer will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a lot of the times the issue is that we're not making the proper effort in our dua. We don't open up our hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when we make our dua, and that's why we're not successful. And he subhanallah, and if you look in the verse in Surah An-Nur, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in verse 21, وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ. And if it were not for the favor of Allah upon you and His mercy, مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَبَدًا. That none of you would have been pure, ever. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. But Allah purifies whom He wills. مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ أَحَدًا. Subhanallah. مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ. مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ. That none of you would have been purified. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. But Allah chooses the one who's going to be purified. And that's why we need to focus on our dua and we open up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because without the tawfiq from Allah, we won't be successful in purifying ourselves. And Ibn Abbas, he mentioned this in the tafsir. And مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ, that none of you will be purified, and he would not be guided to that which is good. And they'll be guided to stay away from that which is good and that which is good for his soul and beneficial for himself. And he would not be guided to stay away from that which is harmful for himself. The fourth principle that we're going to need if we're going to be successful in purifying ourselves is to have a role model. And there's different role models that we're going to have. First and foremost is the role model of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As Allah told us in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. That with Allah is, with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the perfect role model. Whoever has, and look at the ayah ends, لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. That whoever remembers Allah, whoever has hope with Allah in the last day. If you have true hope that Allah is going to be pleased with you, that Allah is going to forgive you, that Allah is going to enter in the Jannah, you have true hope that you're going to be successful Yawm al-Qiyamah when you stand in front of Allah, then go back to the beginning of the verse. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. That you have the beautiful role model in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how do we make him our role model? By following him, learning his sunnah, implementing it in our lives, copying the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and everything that he used to do. This is true love for Allah and for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In Surah Al-Imran, and in my series I'm doing now in Ramadan about Behind the Revelation, which is a video on my Facebook and YouTube and on Instagram as well. You can see we talked recently about the test, the ayah, which is called ayah al-ikhtibar or al-imtihan, the scholars call it, the test, which is the test. Do you truly love Allah? What did Allah say in the verse? قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Then say, if you truly love me, if you truly love Allah, then follow me. If you truly love Allah, then follow me. Follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we take our role models, first starting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then after that with the companion, the Sahaba, and even the Salihin in the days that we live in, because we can see them in front of us as well. And I remember something very amazing, which popped into my head now. The story of, and actually, Shaykh AbdurRaheem or Shaykh AbdurRaheem al-Badr, when I was about to leave Medina, I went to him and I asked him, I had graduated, I asked him for some advice. And you think, subhanAllah, now that you become a student of knowledge, you've been in for several years, that maybe you're going to get like the golden advice, something any more special, more in-depth than you would have gotten before. So I asked him, I said, Shaykh, I said, if you could tell me, and he said, advise me. I said, I've graduated now, I'm about to move on. And we were leaving the masjid, it was Salat al-Asr, I remember. And he said, to be like your Shaykh. And he pointed to the Shaykh who had taught me fiqh. And the Shaykh, he was somebody known for his salah, for his piety. And as soon as the adhan was called, he would be in the masjid. You'd always see him between the adhan and the iqamah reading the Quran. You'd always see him after Salat al-Fajr sitting there to Shuruq reading the Quran. He said, you see how your Shaykh is with his salat? You see how he is with the Quran? He said, this is what you need. That's all you need. It's nothing special. And these are the basics that you need. You need your salat and you need your Quran. SubhanAllah. And after many years of being a student of knowledge and traveling around the world and teaching others, this is something that a realization I came back to and realized that perhaps we had a bit of shortcoming. We're so busy with helping others that sometimes we forgot ourselves when it came to our recitation of the Quran and when it came to the salat. So having that role model where you see it in front of you, that's going to help you, inshallah ta'ala, build. Also, from the main things that we're going to need, I believe this is the fifth principle, if you guys are counting, is the importance of leaving all of that which is haram and anything which comes between us and purification of the soul. So we can divide that into two if we want to, or we can make it into one. The point is that anything that's going to harm us. Look into the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it comes to leaving the sins. Because what happens when you're committing sins and you're committing anything, you're going against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, against the commands of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not fulfilling what you're supposed to be doing as a Muslim. What's actually happening? The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he described it for us in his sunnah. He said that the abd, the servant, that he commits a sin and a black dot is put into his heart. And then when he commits another sin, another shortcoming, another black dot is put into his heart. Until what happens, completely the heart is covered with the filth of the sins. Until it doesn't know that which is ma'ruf, that which is good, and that which is munkar. And he said that this is the ran. The verse that we all probably memorized at a young age. I think most people memorize it. When the Prophet, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this ayah, Prophet he read the verse. This is the ran that Allah talked about it in the ayah. In which surah talks about the ran? Which surah, Abdullah? Ran. Kalla bal rana. Which surah? Subhanallah, he memorized the surah. He's not coming. Surah Al-Mutaffifin. Al-Mutaffifin. So Surah Al-Mutaffifin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Kalla bal rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun. That the ran has been put upon their hearts for that which they used to do. And the ran, as described in this hadith, it's the black dot. And then the other black dot and the black dot. And then the heart is completely covered. Therefore, if we're not going to leave these things, we're not going to be successful. And sometimes people come to me and ask me, why can't we find the khushu in the salat? Why can't we focus? And the problem is that the situation of our heart before we enter into the prayer, our heart is completely corrupted. It's covered in this blackness and this darkness. And then we're surprised that we're not able to purify our souls, or to be able to benefit from the salat, or to be able to focus on the khushu. So this is the origin when it comes to being able to truly purify our soul, that we have to make sure that we cleanse our heart and we take out all of these bad things from our heart. And how do we cleanse our heart? By following up the bad deeds with good deeds. And before that we leave the bad deeds, obviously. Leave the bad deeds, and then we follow it up with good deeds. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ, that indeed the good deeds, they wipe away the bad deeds. As the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded us in the hadith, وَاتْبِعِ الْحَسَنَ السَّيِّئَةَ تَمْحُهَا. Follow up the bad deed with a good deed, it will wipe it away, inshallah ta'ala. Then we said we need to close all of the means, all of the doors of anything that will lead us to falling into that which is any haram or displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything that will corrupt our hearts. And I'm going to mention something amazing to you guys, but first I'll mention the ayah. Because when it comes to looking at that which is haram or listening to that which is haram, a lot of the times we're very easy-going with it, like it's not that big of a deal. But we don't realize that how much of a big effect this is having upon our hearts. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the verse in Surah An-Nur, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. Tell the believing men, the next verse will come later, the same command comes to the women after that. Tell the believers to what? To lower their gaze. To lower their gaze and to protect their private parts. Then Allah says, ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. This is more purifying. So when you look away from that which is haram, you're actually purifying your heart. And when you look at that which is haram, you're corrupting the heart. And something amazing that Imam Ibn al-Qayyim that he mentioned, he said that whenever someone has a lot of, he said that a lot of the ma'asi, a lot of the sins that people fall into, it originates from فضول الكلام والنظر, talking too much about that which is not beneficial, and looking at as well. And you could sometimes look at certain things that are mubah, but you're wasting your time with it, and that eventually leads you to looking at that which is haram. And therefore, we have to be very careful, especially in the days that we live in. This is one of the biggest challenges that we face with issues online and looking at that which is haram. And a lot of times, like we said, it starts with looking at that which is mubah. It's allowed, but then you eventually fall into that which is haram, looking at it. May Allah protect all of us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Imam al-Sa'di, in his commentary on the tafsir, he mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, that whoever protects, his private parts, and he protects his vision by not looking at those, he said that he's going to be the one who's going to purify himself, and he's going to be able to what? Then increase after that. And he said that whoever leaves something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is going to increase him. Allah is going to give him something better in return. And the better that we're going to get in return, the first and the best thing we're going to get is the satisfaction of peace of heart, of the spirituality that all of us really, how you just feel so amazing inside. After that, alhamdulillah, there's other things that you'll gain from your obedience as well. And sometimes even when it comes to the affairs of the dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up for us as well. The seventh, or sixth, if you want to count the last one as one or two, the thing that we need to do if we're truly going to purify ourselves is to remember death, the reality of death. And the days that we live in where people were dying, and whether the numbers were exaggerated or not, Allahu A'lam what was really going on, but nonetheless there was death, that we were in lockdown because of it. People were dying, and the fear of people dying, more people dying. Therefore, and I gave a small reminder about this, maybe many of you saw it, is that, this is actually what Islam wants from us. SubhanAllah. What's happening now from coronavirus, it's actually what Islam wants from us. Our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ukthiru dhikr hadha min al-dhat." He said to constantly remember the destroyer of pleasures, ay al-maut, death. So now we're remembering death. And this is one of the things that's really going to help us purify ourselves. When you realize, where am I going? Okay, I'm going to die. when am I going to die? Allahu A'lam. And this is the hikmah of Al-Hakim, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That none of us know exactly when we're going to die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, وَلَيْسَتِ التَّوْبَةُ لِلَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ السَّيِّئَاتِ حَتَّى إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدُهُمُ الْمَوْتُ قَالَ إِنِّي تُبْتُ الْآنَ. He said that the tawbah is not for those who are continuously doing the sayyat, the bad things, until the time of death comes to him, and then he's going to say, Al-an, now I made tawbah. It doesn't work like that. Khalas. The tawbah is not accepted when the soul starts to come out. You're not going to have a time when the angel of death comes. He's not going to come and knock at your door, and you're going to say, who is it? Say, it's angel. Oh, it's my time. And can I just get a timeout? 5-10 minutes, go make wudu, pray 2 rakats. I want to read a page of the Quran and I want to send some sadaqah, and then you can come back 10-15 minutes. It doesn't work like that. Khalas. And Allah told us in the Quran that if your time comes, فَإِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهُمْ لَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ سَاعَةً وَلَا يَسْتَقْدِمُونَ. That if their time comes, it's not going to be increased or decreased. Khalas, it's going to happen at that time. Therefore, the Muslim must always be prepared, always be thinking about the reality of death, and realize that this is one of the things that's going to help me focus on the akhirah. And for me to be successful in the akhirah, I have to strive to be from those who purify my soul and to be in that high spiritual state. The high spiritual state that's even going to help me deal with the difficulties of this dunya. So it's a win-win situation, alhamdulillah. It's amazing. Because the happiness that everyone's looking for, we find it through the spirituality, through the remembrance of Allah, through the Quran, through the obedience to Allah. We're finding all of that, alhamdulillah. And then inshallah, after that, we can be successful in the hereafter. Imam Sa'id ibn Jubair, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned that he said that I fear he said, I fear for myself if the remembrance of death leaves my heart, even if it's just for a short amount of time. But if I don't remember death, and he said, I really fear for myself. We fear for our souls, we fear for our iman. This is one of the things that keeps you in check. And then subhanAllah, if I were to show you, people might think it's a bit strange. On my laptop computer, on my desktop, the picture I have is a picture of the grave. And the hadith is, sure enough, what I just mentioned, it's in English, and remember the destroyer of pleasures. And I have that on my desktop. When you wake up, you look at your computer, it reminds you, focus on that which is going to benefit. We spend a lot of time on our computers, yes. But a computer is a two-edged sword. And it's either going to bring a lot of good or a lot of evil. So you have to choose which one you're going to choose. After remembering death, I believe this is the 8th one now, is that we make sure that we are in good company. And alhamdulillah, the brothers in ICK and Kuwait, may Allah bless them, and the ones who organize this webinar, and many of the other events there. What's meant by these type of things, even I attended some of the programs they have for the kids there, may Allah bless them, mashallah. And these things are meant to raise our kids, and even for us to be in that type of environment, where we need to be in an environment with those who are going to help us, inshallah ta'ala, and for the hereafter. And that's why when we read Surah Al-Kahf every Friday, Allah gives us the command, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُم بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Make yourself patient. Life is tough. You have to have patience. Make yourself patient, have sabr with those who make dua to Allah night and day. They want the face of Allah. They want Allah to be pleased with them. And then Allah said, وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Allah said, do not let them go far away from you. Don't let them out of your sight. You keep them close to you. You need to be with your brothers. Your brothers are going to help you be strong. When you become weak, they're going to remind you. When they become weak, you remind them, and you guys keep it strong. It's a team effort. And it's difficult for us to be successful in this life unless we have a team of true believers. And that's why even in the story of Al-Kahf itself, there was a group of them, and they joined together, and then they went to protect their religion. The most important thing is, how do we protect our religion? That's one of the beautiful things that we gain from that story. The Prophet ﷺ, he talked about it in detail in several hadith. He said, "الْمَرْءُ عَلَى دِينِ خَلِيلِهِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِطُ." That a person is on the religion of his friend. So look at who you befriend. Choose your friends wisely. And even in Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said that you can see how the people are by who they hang around with. This just shows you who they are. And it shows you what they have inside, the company that they keep. Because the ones who are going to be on the same page with you, the ones who are striving for Jannah, or they're going to be the ones who are affected by the dunya, or the ones who are half-half, or the ones who are on a highway to hell, as they say themselves, subhanAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and safeguard us. There's a few other things, but inshallah, for time restraints, inshallah, we'll be quicker, inshallah, on the last two. The other thing that we need to protect ourselves from is to be impressed by our own actions. To be impressed by our own actions. And this is very important for someone who starts to practice, because what happens sometimes when someone starts to practice, we start to look down. I was discussing even with a family member recently, and one of our family members who's really practicing, he really looks down upon other people who are not practicing, and he finds them disgusting, even though himself was very bad before Allah guided him, subhanAllah. But this thing now, so sometimes, because, someone who prays during the night and fasting, someone who leaves haram, look at these fasaqah, look at these people who are far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you get impressed with yourself, and this is the downfall for anyone. You get impressed with your own actions, that you fall away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And something amazing, Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam about the meaning of the verse when Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْتُونَ مَا آتَوا وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. And those who are given, and when in their hearts they're fearful, their hearts will become fearful, and they return to their Lord. So what's meant by this? And the hearts are fearful and they return to their Lord. She said, are they the ones who are drinking alcohol? Are they the ones who are stealing? And he said, no, bint as-Siddiq, no, the daughter of as-Siddiq, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhuma. And he said, what's meant by this is the ones who are praying and fasting and doing good deeds. And they're fasting and praying and doing good deeds. He said, but they fear that Allah will not accept them. So he said, they're fasting, they're praying, and they're giving sadaqah, all forms of good deeds. And they're scared that Allah will not accept from them, subhanAllah. So we make sure that once we're on the path, that we don't let shaitan take us away from the path and falling into being oppressed and being impressed with our own actions, and falling away from knowing the reality of the nafs. And you have to know what is the reality of your nafs. And in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, this is the 10th principle. When you know the reality of the nafs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it with different characteristics in the Quran. From it is the mutma'inna, the one that's relaxed and feels good. That's the one we're all aiming to get. And from the nafs also is the amara bis-su. Inna nafsa la'amaratun bis-su. The one that's constantly calling to evil. And it's something natural that we're inclined to the different and enticed by different forms of lust and desire. Something this is natural that's in the nafs. So it's and then there's the nafs al-lawwama. The nafs al-lawwama is the one that what happens to us more in and out. We're constantly ridiculing ourselves for falling into that which is haram, from not fulfilling it. So this is where a lot of us are, and that's a good sign. But you need to know the reality of your nafs, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ, when he told us that what is the nature of the children of Adam, he said, "Kullu bani Adam khata." All of the children of Adam, they're khata. They make mistakes. But he said the best of the khata'in, the best ones who make mistakes are the tawabun, the ones who are constantly repenting to Allah, constantly returning to Allah. So we need to understand the nature of the nafs, that we're going to be inclined to this type of thing. And something amazing, if you go back and you look in Surah Ali Imran, and I was discussing with my students the other day here in Istanbul in Turkey. If you look at the verses of Ali Imran from verses 14 to 18, or 14 to 17, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 14 to 17, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they've been inclined, the people have been inclined to what? To shahwat, to lust and to desires. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the verse which comes after the issue of what Allah gives better in return. And Allah mentions all of the things that we're inclined to, from our families, from women, from the gold and the silver, the nice rides, the different types of agriculture, and and livestock, which are types of business. This is something natural, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear in the verse which comes after that, that to Allah, and at the end of the verse itself, verse 14, that Allah, to the return to Allah is actually better than that. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said at the end of the verse, ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, that these are only the pleasures of this world. وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الْمَآبِ, but Allah has the better return is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. When you leave some of these things, that doesn't mean you can't have nice things. You can enjoy things of the dunya. But we don't want it to let us distract us, and we don't want these things, these desires we have, make us do things which are haram as a means to achieve these things. But if we have the money and we have the means to buy certain things from the pleasures of this life, and we have them, alhamdulillah, as long as they're not distracting us from the true goal, which is the hereafter, then alhamdulillah, this is something that is allowed. And if you go to verse 15 after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ أَوْ نَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. After all the 6 things mentioned in the verse before of the pleasure of the dunya, then Allah mentions, "Shall I not show you something which is even better than that?" All of these things we have these lusts and the desires for, Allah says, لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, that those who have the taqwa, it's for those who have the taqwa, be careful. Just like Allah said in the other verse in Surah Al-Imran, verse 133, when Allah said, وَعِدَّةُ الْمُتَّقِينَ, talking about the ones who want the Jannah. You want Jannah? You want Allah to forgive you? In the beginning of the verse, سَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ. He said, race to the forgiveness of your Lord into the Jannah. End of the verse, he said, عِدَّةُ الْمُتَّقِينَ, وَعِدَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and it's been prepared for the muttaqeen, for those who truly have the taqwa, the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their life and in their actions. Allah said in this verse, in verse 15, لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, those who have the taqwa with the Lord, what do they get? جَنَّةٌ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ, that they have Jannah, which has rivers flowing beneath of it. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا, they will be there eternally. وَأَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ, and pure wives. وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, and the pleasure from Allah. The pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ, Allah is well acquainted. Allah is all seeing of what His servants do. That Allah is Basir, He's all seeing of what His servants do, to remind us of the reality of the taqwa. It has to show up in our actions. And Allah said, لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقُوا, in the verse. And Allah said at the end of the verse, وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ, that Allah is all seeing. And this is the reality of the taqwa, is that we do things because Allah sees us, and we're ashamed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We leave things, certain things, because we know that Allah can see us and Allah won't be pleased with us. And that's why Allah said, قُلْ أَوْ نَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, in the beginning of the verse 15, that should I not tell you which is even better than that? Better than all of the lusts and desires. When you leave things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, مَنْ تَرَكَ شَيْءٍ لِلَّهِ عَوَّضَ اللَّهُ خَيْرٌ مِنْهُ, that Allah, whoever leaves something from Allah, Allah will give him something better in return. And then one of the best things that you can get, in fact, the best things that you can get in this life, is to have any true happiness in your life and in your actions, and to feel good inside, to find that spirituality and that happiness that everyone is searching for. So these are 10 principles, inshallah ta'ala, that can help us, inshallah ta'ala, to achieve this objective of purifying our souls and being from those who are successful. And Allah knows best. Allahu a'lam, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak.